So, welcome to NDC London, one of the last talks here. And I want to talk to you guys about building careers. And we will do so looking at Mario Kart. Now, I started reliving my childhood memories when Sinterklaas, which is the Belgian version of Santa Claus, brought my kids a Nintendo Switch together with the Mario Kart game a couple of years ago. And even after a couple of years, this is still a game that I play with my sons regularly, and it's very fun. But when I was thinking about building this talk, it's a pretty serious subject, and it will be no fun. So I figured I would just use Mario Kart as a reference, and it will be a lot easier to digest. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And when we talk about careers, one of the first things that we have to talk about is success. And if you want to know what success looks like, I first want to talk a little bit about myself. Now, if I talk about me, I am the head of learning and development at a company called Axxes. I coach a total of 53 .NET consultants at the company. My wife is called Barbara, and we have 3 wonderful kids called Arne, Joren, and Marit. And when I graduated, I was combining 2 degrees. I am an international speaker since a couple of years, and I'm an amateur guitar builder. And if you look at this picture, this is a very, very successful person. But, and I wouldn't disagree with you if you would tell me like, hey, Hannes, you're pretty successful. But you can also look at it from another angle. This is also me. I was bullied when I was in elementary and in high school because, yeah, like most geeks, I was a pretty weird kid. I'm definitely not the best programmer around. I get by, but there's definitely people out there who are far more technical than I am. I failed my college exams 2 years in a row when I first started out. I'm a little bit on the heavy side at the moment, and I had a severe burnout and depression in 2012. And without glasses or orthopedic soles, I either get sore knees or I'm not able to see much, and I sometimes lose my temper. And if you look at this side of me, you would say, okay, what kind of loser is this? And it is the same person. Both these 2 people are both me, and without one, the other cannot exist. It's all a matter of perspective, and that is very, very, very important. When you look at successful people, they also have unsuccessful sides. And make sure that you know what view you're getting, because especially in a time of social media, people post their successes online. They post everything that they want to share, but they often hide all the things that go wrong. And then you get basically a situation where you're comparing your own unedited footage to somebody else's highlight reel. And that is just not a fair comparison. So when you think about success, know that success is about perspective and that there always are different angles. But I promised you Mario Kart. So let's get back to Mario Kart. And if you're like me and you want to know what success looks like in Mario Kart, the first thing you're going to do is Google. And you're going to Google something like Mario Kart World Champion. And you're going to click a website, and you're going to find a website called MK Leaderboards, Mario Kart Leaderboards. And on that website, you have a page called Rankings, and you'll find a Spanish player called Alberto. You also see a respectable 4th place for a Belgian guy. But you start wondering, like, okay, this Alberto, how good is he really, right? So you start Googling a little bit more, and you Google Alberto Mario Kart records, and you'll find videos. And you'll find videos just like this one. And if you look at this video, it is pretty crazy. If you've ever played Mario Kart, you will see that the lines that he drives, he uses every inch of the track. He makes literally no mistakes. He takes shortcuts wherever he can. I mean, this is amazing, and he is really, really, really good. Driving a line like this would be completely impossible for mere mortals like you and I. So, if you're to compare your own skills to Alberto, you will probably end up short. And if you do it in Mario Kart terms, that will be like comparing Baby Mario on the submarine to Link on a motorcycle. Because in Mario Kart, your characters and your go-karts, they actually influence the driving characteristics. So if we get back to Alberto, that wouldn't be a fair comparison. See, this is you, and you are looking at the mountain in front of you, and that mountain represents everything that you want to achieve. It's every skill that you admire in Alberto. And you look at the hill, and Alberto is already up there. So when you start working towards this goal, it will take you a lot of effort. And even if you would start playing Mario Kart for months on end at this very moment, it would not take you noticeably closer to this peak. In fact, you will first find yourself in the valley, because as soon as you start training, you will realize how good he really is. And you will feel even further from the top, because you first start appreciating how high this person's skill is. And you will start wondering, like, how am I ever going to get there? And all this time, he is already up there and looking at his next challenge. So if you find yourself in this valley, it doesn't mean that you should give up. It just means that you need a better frame of reference than just looking at Alberto. So if you're looking at your own career, and a lot of you will probably be people in the IT sector, you're competing against this person, somebody who's in their 30s, who've had time since college to learn a lot of skills, but they still live in their parents' basement. Their mothers take care of the cooking and the laundry. They don't have any other hobbies. They don't have a partner, and they invest all their time in learning programming things. So what happens is you're comparing yourself to somebody who has dedicated their entire lives to being where they are right now. Did they start out with equal talent? Did they have an equal amount of experience? Did you both spend the same amount of time trying to get to that same goal? Did you do that with the same amount of focus? Did you have the same opportunities in life? And the question, it's almost impossible that the answer to all of these questions is going to be yes. And when you compare, make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, and that you can put into perspective the amount of skills that you have gathered with the amount of effort that you have put into them. And because the factors are not equal, yeah, it's impossible to really compare. So think about perspective. Think about how you're looking at others. Now, if this is not the good way to get at your goal, we're going to have to redefine what a goal looks like. We're going to have to come up with a better plan to advance our careers, because just looking at the best of the best and trying to move in that direction is not going to really get us anywhere. So the first question we should ask ourselves is, in what direction do I want my career to evolve? And you can think of long-term life goals and how your career fits into that. But I've found, in my experience as a coach, that long-term career goals are better handled in a medium-term frame of reference. So look at where you want to be in a 3 to 5 year window. Because even in a 3 to 5 year window, a lot of things can change. I'm pretty sure that a lot of us have adjusted the goals that we had the last year because of COVID. But even COVID aside, in a 3 to 5 year period, you will learn things about yourself, and you will maybe learn some things that you like or dislike about the path that you have chosen. And you will learn about other opportunities that present themselves. And the industry around you, especially in IT, will change, and maybe new jobs or opportunities will become available. So almost never have I ever coached somebody where after 5 years the plan was still the same. And that's okay. But it's good to have some direction, and a 3 to 5 year period is very good. And that's why I call it a direction. I don't call it a goal, because it will change over that time. And then if you decided your direction, it will help with a lot of things. It will give you focus, because you can focus effort in moving in that general direction. But it also gives you a frame of reference for making smaller decisions and setting smaller goals and setting your short-term goals, right? And this also happens in Mario Kart. If you're driving the wrong way in Mario Kart, you will get this arrow on your screen that tells you, hey, you're moving in the wrong direction. Move the right way if you want to get to the finish line. And this is our inner compass. The direction that we've defined for ourselves for 3 to 5 years is the compass that we're going to use to define our short-term goals. And this might, for some people, this might be enough. If you know your general direction and you just adjust that from time to time and you just start moving towards it, some people have personalities that allow them to do that. But for some people, that might still be very, very daunting. And that's okay. And the exercise that I usually do with people is to ask them, what is the smallest step that we can take today to move towards our goal? And then you're going to have to define what success looks like for a smaller goal. And take chess, for instance. I started playing chess because my oldest son started playing, and I didn't want to give up on him. This kid is way too smart for his own good, and he never actually applied himself to anything until he started playing chess. And in the beginning, I was better than him, but I noticed that he got better really, really quickly. Kids learn at an amazing, amazing rate. And at the moment, if you would look at my Blitz rating on Lead Chess, I actually went up a little bit since I made these slides, but it puts me somewhere around maybe the 15th percentile on all the players playing Blitz, which is not really, really good. But if I put that into perspective, I started playing in 2018. And then I had a rating that was around 800, and I went up a considerable amount, and I became a much better chess player. But the most important goal, and the reason that I started playing chess, is I can still beat my son. And for me, that was the goal. The goal was not to become Magnus Carlsen, who is basically the Alberto of chess. Actually, he lost last week, but that's a story for another day. But the goal is not to become Magnus Carlsen. The goal is to have fun playing chess and to improve my own skills and to grow together with my son and to share a hobby with him. And that is my direction when it comes to chess. So I define my goals in that regard and not in regards of becoming an international chess player. I don't have the time to put into chess to achieve that. Most important thing that I learned my son and that you can also take away from this, it's not because you start out behind others, especially others my age. I think if you put me in a youth tournament right now, I would probably play at the level of maybe 10 to 11-year-olds, and even there, I would definitely not get on the podium in a tournament. So that's where I'm at with chess. So I started out behind all of those other people and even behind those young kids. But it doesn't matter because I made progress since I started, and that's the most important thing. So when you define your goals, don't look at Alberto or at Magnus Carlsen. Look at yourself. You are your own competition. Don't look at your colleagues. Don't look at your programming heroes. Don't look at the conference speakers that stand in front of you on a conference like NDC London. Don't look at Bill Gates or Elon Musk or John Carmack. Look at the goals that you keep your goals focused on your own improvement. And it's in our nature to compare, and it's okay to look at people who are successful. But if you're going to be majorly unhappy if that is where you're going to define your goals. So how do you set targets that will actually help you? Now, Mario Kart has the answer again, and this is basically something that you will see in a lot of self-improvement courses. The answer is SMART, right? Mario Kart has SMART steering to keep you on track, and SMART goals will also keep your progress on track. It's probably a cliche, and you've probably heard these, but I'm just going to reiterate. If you have SMART goals, that means that they are goals that you can work with short term. So SMART means specific. A very non-specific goal is I want to become better at Mario Kart, and that would be a very bad goal. But if you focus on a certain track and a certain lap time, that would be a very specific goal, and that would be a good goal in the meanwhile. They should also be measurable, right? And with a lap time on a certain track, that is certainly a measurable goal. Getting better is not a goal. If you have to make something like, I want to know when I achieved my success. It has to be achievable. If you just put Alberto's lap time as your goal on a certain track, yeah, it's probably going to be impossible to even ever reach that. So if you know that you can get to a certain level with training, that's a good goal, and then you can define a new one when you get there. It should be relevant. This goal should help you to move in your general direction where you want to go, right? It has to matter in the big scheme of things when you're planning for your career. And it should be time-based. You should define for yourself when you want to get to this goal and when you want to achieve it, so that you know when you have to adjust your goals and not be stuck in an infinite attempt to achieve something that you're never going to reach, right? This forces you to reevaluate or to basically achieve the goal on a certain time. And this leads to very, very good things. But for some people, even this will become maybe a little bit daunting. And then you can just think about what the smallest step is that you can take today to get closer to your SMART goal. And it's just the story of putting one foot in front of the other. And this is the mental exercise that I was critical when somebody explained this technique to me, because I'm not the person that this really works on really well. But it has helped me a tremendous amount when I was coaching people. So like you go stand on one side of the room and you think about the situation where you are right now. And then you physically displace yourself to the other side of the room. And there you just where you want to be. Where is the goal that you are trying to achieve, your short-term thing. And then you go back to where you are, to the side of the room where you started, and you try to define for yourself, like, okay, which smallest step I can take today to move in the direction of my goal? What does it mean to put one step in the direction of the other wall? And taking that one step, that is the thing that you should be focusing on today. That is the thing that becomes your goal for today, right? So we know that we shouldn't compare ourselves to others, and that we should make measurable goals for ourselves, and that we can even break those down into small steps that we can take today. But what is important, because all of you are probably in IT, a lot of your goals will be focused around learning things, right? And also here, Mario Kart can help us define how we can focus on learning in our job. First, you have to choose how you want to play Mario Kart. This is the first screen that you're going to get when you log into the game, and you have to choose what you're going to do. Are you going to do single player campaign or playing with multiple people on the same system? Or are you going to play online or whatever? And it's the same with learning. Um, Not everybody learns stuff in the same way. I coach people who learn the most by just diving into a framework, exploring it, coding a little bit with it, maybe read a blog post here and there, but just exploring by themselves is the method that works the best for them. And some other people prefer multiplayer. They prefer sparing their ideas with others, maybe pair programming, mobbing something. If you've never heard about mob programming, look up talks by Woody Zuhl about this topic. It's an amazing way to spread knowledge within a team. But learning from the people you work with in general, that is the way that they prefer learning things, and it works extremely well for them. Some people prefer online play. We are surrounded with a vast choice of learning resources that are accessible at the snap of a finger. You can go on platforms like plural sites, but you can also find a lot of stuff on YouTube. You can find blog posts. You can basically get an entire IT education online. And some people prefer to be disconnected, and they might be wireless. They prefer reading books and then digesting the knowledge that's in there. And a lot of books are still being published for this very reason, because it's some people's preferred way of learning. So find out which way you like to learn. If, for me personally, classroom training very rarely works. I get bored. I fall asleep. I had this problem in college as well. I do like workshops. Workshops work really well for me. I like coding with others, so I prefer doing that. If I have to look up specific knowledge nowadays, I often use plural sites because I can very quickly get to relevant bits. Their indexing is amazing. But whatever works, right? And then you're going to have to decide at what pace you're trying to learn. In Mario Kart, you have various levels of speed. And basically, this is the most important choice after you've decided how you're going to learn, is at what pace are you going to take it. Because if you stay in your comfort zone, you will progress, but it will be very, very, very slow. If you play 50cc, it will be very, very easy to win the race, and you're not pushing your boundaries. So you can achieve success, but that success will not really move you towards your target, right? You stay in your comfort zone and you don't really learn. But 200cc will also not be the best thing for you to do, because that's just as bad. If you pick a pace beyond your skill, your team is going to have to pick up after you, because you will be so far in over your head, and you won't be learning much either, because it's so much that's coming at you is that you can just try to survive. And in Mario Kart, that means that you will get the bullet bill power up. Basically, if you're trailing the pack, you will get this power up so you can overtake some people, so that you don't always have to finish last. And in the real world, this bullet bill will be the people around you, because they will have to pick up where you are in over your head. So choose a level where you are taken somewhat out of your comfort zone, but just make it so that the challenges that you're faced with are stuff that you're going to be able to deal with if you start learning. Make sure that you're not fully overwhelmed, right? And it takes a while. And the first time that you finish second, the first time that you can really taste the victory, right? You're getting closer to that goal that you defined for yourself, and you're learning and learning, and you're getting close. And this is the moment that you will get this boost, like, okay, I'm gonna reach my goal, I'm gonna be there. And you have to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you will be on top of the leaderboard, and you will reach your next goal. Now, we are defining our goals. We find out how we want to learn. And the next thing that we need to look at is in what environment we are sitting. Because of course it is important to have your family and your loved ones around you, that they support what you're trying to achieve. Because when you are learning, you will sometimes be working really hard to achieve that goal, and you need people by your side who are going to tell you to not give up and to go after your goals. But I'm not here to talk about about your family, because I don't want any angry phone calls from your partners that you're not spending time with them anymore. So let's apply the same principles maybe to a work environment. Let's talk about work. I'm going to start by telling you about my previous employer. My previous employer was an environment. My goals and the company's goals were not really aligned. And we were really, really not moving in the same direction. And I didn't get along with my boss because of that. And everything we did felt like friction, because the things that I wanted to do and that I saw as opportunities in the companies are things that he didn't want me to pursue. So I became pretty unhappy, and I'm pretty sure that this played a factor in the burnout that I had in 2012. But at some point, I did my first direction exercise, and I found out that, okay, I don't see myself working at this company any longer. And that is the time that I started looking for a new employer. And I made it a very, very clear topic in the interviews that I did, what my direction would be and where I wanted to go, and to figure out if the companies that I was interviewing with actually had aligned goals with myself. But when I talked to my previous boss and I explained him the results of my direction exercise, he told me, yeah, that's not really how we see things happen here. And the conclusion was that I was going to actually move companies. We both knew after this talk that I would not be staying at that company. So when I finally did switch employers, things for me changed tremendously. I moved to a company where being me was a strength and not something that was continuously looked down upon. And it was a company where my goals were supported, and where my goals would actually benefit the company, and the compensation was proportionate to what I was bringing to the table. And I felt that I could set goal after goal after goal after goal, and I felt supported by my company to actually pursue them, and I could ace the execution every single time. And all the 5-year goals that I defined in my direction exercise, I actually achieved in 3 when I was working for this new company. And I'm almost 10 years in now. And I've repeated that process of redefining my direction and talking it through with my boss, and then setting goals and achieving them a couple of times since then. But so that's my story, but that's not necessarily going to help you guys a lot. So what I wanted to look at is which factors in a workplace will contribute to your success. Because you will start on the starting grid in Mario Kart, and every day you have to start the race. Every day you have to get out of bed and do the things that are expected of you, and you have to do the things that are going to get you ahead towards your goal. So if you have to start every day from the back of the grid because your employer is not really supporting you in what you're doing, or you can start from the front of the grid because you feel comfortable and supported, that is going to make a huge difference on your progress. And of course, there are simple things that everybody is going to look like, that everybody is going to look at when they switch companies. Like, what does the office look like? What are the benefits like? How is the pay? But it goes a lot further than that. Can you easily get hold of your manager? Do you have to do a lot of administration around your core job? Do you have a positive feeling with the compensation package that they are giving you for the work that you do? So, can you be yourself? I think that's probably one of the big factors that's going to impact your work performance a lot. If you have to tiptoe all day and make sure that you don't step on anybody's toes by just being you and acting on your own impulses, that's probably going to be not the best environment for you. Who are you going to work with? And do you enjoy working with those people? Do you feel like supporting them, and do they support you? Are you allowed to achieve the goals that you have set for yourself? Do they support the directions that you want to move in? And this is also very, very important. And is there a long-term plan? Because I see a lot of companies hiring for a position that they need filled today, for a business need that basically doesn't stretch past 6 months. It's like, okay, we need to get this project out the door. We need to hire more developers. You fit the skills. Please come and work for us. That's not a good reason to join a company. There should be a long-term plan. Where are you going to be with this company if you join them in 2 years, in 5 years, things like that? Can you contribute to their mission? Can you contribute to the long-term plan? And do you get a compensation package that is okay? If you're comfortable and all these factors are checked, it will basically be like Mario and Peach. I know this is extremely cheesy and you can mock me for it, but it really is true. If you find an employer where all these factors are aligned, you will feel at home when you go to work, and it will be like a relationship. You will bring out the best in each other. By supporting the company, you will help them grow and they will help you grow. And in our IT world, one of the common sources of friction between employees and employers is hardware. And even in Mario Kart, we have hardware nowadays. You can have this 120 euro or something remote control cart that you control over Bluetooth and race through your living room. But my opinions on hardware, and please don't go to your boss tomorrow and tell them, like, Hannes told me you should get me a better laptop. But in terms of tools, our profession is quite cheap. Ask a plumber how much gear he has in the back of his van. Ask a woodworker how much the contents of his workshop are worth. And I basically hurt myself because I'm standing in the middle of my own wood shop right now, because that's my hobby as an amateur guitar builder. So I know how much my tools for my hobby cost, and I can tell you my tools to do my day job are way cheaper. Because basically what you need is a PC and some peripherals and some software licenses, and you'll be good to go. And don't skimp on things like a decent desk and a decent desk chair. But even then, even if you buy quality stuff for all those things, it's still going to be way cheaper than a lot of other professions. So if you're working for a company where getting a decent laptop to do your job is something that is a discussion and not something like, okay, what do you need? I usually see that as a red flag, because I think that usually means that they don't realize the work that you're doing and how much friction bad hardware is causing for you. And it means that they also don't value the time that you're basically spending with them. So I'm not saying everything has to be the best of the best, but it should just not be something that holds you back. Even if you have to buy it on your own expense, it's usually still affordable. So one thing you're going to always have to do is brand yourself. And I know that this, especially for people who are not extroverts, this is something that will come as something that is not intuitive. But employers only see what you allow them to see, or basically, to put it a little bit more bluntly, what you rub in their face. And it's just important that the people who are going to be evaluating you know what you did. If you achieve something, just make sure in some way that they know. It doesn't mean that you have to start bragging. It's not the same as bragging. It's just putting your own work in the spotlight from time to time. And even if you really, really, really hate doing that, and I can totally imagine that people in the IT, there's a lot of introverts walking around, and they really hate putting themselves in the spotlight. But it's something that's going to help your career a lot, because if people know what you're bringing to the table, it means that negotiating your next raise will be easier. It means that you're not looked over for the next promotion. It means that you might get the lead on the next project that your team will do. And I didn't do this for quite a while in my career. And the fact that I'm doing this here today is the result of me branding myself. At some point, I had to walk up to, and in Mario Kart, you have this loudspeaker power up. I had the ambition to become a conference speaker, and I had been submitting to call for papers for quite a while. And for those of you who are not in the circuit of speaking and running conferences, the average IT conference gets between 5 and 10 times the amount of speakers that submit talks than they actually have slots on their conference, which means that probably between 80 and 90% of the people who actually submit talks don't make the cut. So if people don't know who you are, you're going to get looked over for quite a while. And I had been doing this for a while, and I figured, why is this not changing? So the next time I was at a conference as an attendee, I made it a point to walk up to the organizer and introduce myself and explain what my ambitions were, which subjects I could speak about, things like that. I also asked some tips from other speakers. I call them other speakers now. At that point, they were just speakers to me because I wasn't one. But it helped to get some tips on what to look out for on call for papers and things like that. And I made my ambitions clear to these people. And surely enough, a couple of months after that, I got selected for my first conference. And in the year after that, I managed to get into 6 more conferences. So I did, in my first year of speaking, I basically got into 6 pretty big events. And that was a major success. If I had not branded myself and put myself out there, this would never have happened. So make sure that people know what your goals are. This is not bragging. This is not really asking them for help. It's just putting yourself on their radar and that they know what you're working on. Put yourself in the spotlight. Tell people about your goals. And really, most people are not assholes. If you let them know what you want, they might actually help you with this. And then there is one thing that you really have probably already heard about is imposter syndrome. A lot of people feel like the things that are coming to them are things that they don't deserve. So your career is going to boom with all the tips that I just gave you. But if you're making progress, imposter syndrome will rear its ugly head. Because at some point you will be promoted to that team lead position that you might want. And this will really mess with your head. Imposter syndrome is basically that you will feel like a fraud. You don't belong in the position that you're actually holding. You don't deserve the pay raise that you just got. You aren't skilled enough to do what they expect of you. These are all things, feelings that come from imposter syndrome. And it's completely normal for this to happen. Even experienced people get imposter syndrome all the time. But it seems that we always think that others are better than we really are. And your mind is just playing this trick on you. You probably deserve every bit of credit that you have got. I mean, in most workplaces, they don't hand out stuff for free, and yours isn't different, probably. But you keep struggling with this. Even if you know about imposter syndrome and you've beaten it a couple of times, you still get this every time. I still get this every time I speak at a conference, for instance. Especially if it's a new talk. Because the way it goes with a new talk, you hand in an abstract, they pick your abstract. Your first reaction is, oh crap, how am I going to fill an hour about this? I don't know nearly enough. And then you start preparing the talk and you realize, okay, it's fine. I have more than enough content. I have to cut half of it to fit within the hour. But the things that you will ask yourself is like, how is the quality of my content? Are people, doesn't everybody already know this? I'm talking about stuff that seems obvious for me because in my day-to-day job, I'm coaching a lot of people and these things about careers, they seem obvious, but they might not be. And people picked your talk because they're interested in your abstract, so they want to learn something. So usually that's not an issue. But you start doubting, if I'm the expert, am I the expert that should be telling people about this? Isn't there somebody better to explain all these things? And all these questions, every time I make a new conference talk, they still haunt me. And I have learned now to ignore this voice a little bit when it rears its ugly head. And just like Bowser hiding in the Princess Peach uniform, trying to eat me when I'm on stage giving my talk, it really helps me to realize that I usually don't freeze on stage. That was one of the things that I was scared for the first time that I gave a talk at a conference. It also helps me that I know that I'm usually nervous when it begins, but after 5 minutes, I'm feeling just fine. But what helps me the most is to know that the stuff that I'm passionate about usually helps at least a couple of people in the audience, and they will come talk to me after that, and that's something I really enjoy. And I really, really want to share the knowledge that I have gained the hard way. So I have to start defeating imposter syndrome. Now, I'm not gonna dive too much deeper into imposter syndrome. There's other people who have full 1-hour talks about the subject. My good friend Heather Dawning has a talk about imposter syndrome, and at the last NDC that I spoke at in Sydney, there was Melissa Houghton who had a talk about imposter syndrome. So look up those talks if you are struggling with this. There's a lot of practical tips on how to overcome it, and that will help you get through this. Now, imposter syndrome is not all that's going to try and hold you back. At some point, you might crash. And this is my personal warning to all of you. When you are focused, when you are pushing hard, when you are reaching goals, when you are achieving things, it's really, really easy to forget about you. And before you know it, you drive off the track. And in Mario Kart on Rainbow Road, it's really easy to drive off the track, as you can see. Something happens, your kart goes over the edge, and it can be anything. It can just be the day that everything is too much. It can be the loss of a loved one. It can be an employer that goes bankrupt. It can be your personal relationship that's ending. It could be a depression. At some point, you're gonna find yourself in a position where it feels like you're grasping into thin air and don't have anything to hold on to. And things spiral out of control. For me, the phase where I went through this was a crippling burnout in 2012. I mentioned this in the beginning. I had just made my position as coach at Axxes, and my oldest son was 1 year old. He was a very bad sleeper, so I didn't have a lot of sleep in that period. And we were renovating the house that we had just bought. So we were living with my mother-in-law, and I know that all of you are thinking, like, this is not a good idea, don't live with your in-laws. I agree, but we didn't have any other options. And until that day, I always believed that if the going gets tough, I just had to shift gears and keep going. And one day I just couldn't. I woke up and I couldn't bring myself to walk to my car and drive to work. It was all I really wanted to do is like pick myself up and get going again. And I just couldn't. And I couldn't for about 3 to 4 months. It just wasn't an option. I had to get through this with antidepressants. I had to go to a psychologist just to get myself on the rails again. And that's when I learned that the people who are really motivated and moving fast are also susceptible to this happening to them. And it's not a shame, but just know that there's always a way to pick yourself up again. In Mario Kart, there's always this guy on a cloud who comes and fish you up and puts you back on track. And for me, it was a lot of things, as I just said, that got my life back on track. But a couple of things in that period in my life were really, really important. The fact that I had an employer who didn't call me like, hey, Hannes, when are you going to get back to work? Instead, they called me and asked me, hey, how are you? And that's a tremendous difference in a time like that. But I can also tell you that no job or nothing in the world is worth it to go through that again. And it won't be worth it for you guys either. So when you're setting goals for yourself, pace yourself. Make sure that you find time to practice hobbies, to go and do sports. Because people who are giving everything, they are extra vulnerable to this, even if they don't know it themselves. And it's very important to enjoy today. Make sure that every day that you live, that you have moments that you can just enjoy for you, because the work will still be there tomorrow. Make sure that you spend valuable time with your family or with your friends or doing something that you love, practicing a hobby, right? Put your own well-being over your job always. And that's the last thing that I really wanted to tell you today. So this is our finish line for today, and I just want to quickly recap the things that we talked about. The first thing is, don't just mirror yourself to others. Success is a matter of perspective. You can look at yourself in a successful way. You can look at yourself in a failure way. Make sure that you cut yourself some slack and put the things into perspective. Find your direction. Set a long-term direction that you want to move in. 3 to 5 years works pretty well. Then, to start moving in that direction, define SMART goals for yourself. And if those are too big, think about what the smallest step is that you can take. If you have to learn things, make sure that you go outside of your comfort zone, but not too far. Make sure that you can still manage and that you don't burn out. Find a good environment to be in, not only professionally, but privately. Make sure that you can be you, and that will help tremendously in achieving all of the above. Work on your own branding. Make sure that people know about you, that they know what you have done, and that you are not overlooked when they are thinking about who is the expert on this matter. And battle your imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome will show up at some points, but know that it's just a voice in your head and it doesn't say anything about your skills. And lastly, remember that life is more important than a job any day of the week. My name is Hannes. I'm the head of learning and development at a company called Axxes. This is my Twitter handle and my ICQ number. Make ICQ great again. If anyone has any questions, now would be the time to unmute yourself, and I will answer them gladly. Crickets. Did my mic die or anything?
Hannes, there's a question in the chat.
Oh, a question in chat? I'm sorry, I don't have the chat open. Give me a second. I'll try and make that happen. Can you maybe read it out loud, Jacob?
Yeah, you talked about a direction exercise in combination with switching company. Can you talk about this exercise?
Yes, I felt really unhappy with the way that my day job was going. And somebody recommended to me, somebody somebody in my private circle, so it wasn't at work, recommended to me, why don't you try and figure out where you want to be in 3 to 5 years? And I took the 5-year goal. At the moment, I was a .NET developer. And I was, at the time, working on .NET 3.5 certifications. It was a while ago. And I figured that I wanted to move more in the direction of being something like a lead developer, somebody who is very technical, who has a lot of skills, and basically runs the team from a technical perspective. That was what I figured out for myself. But it also meant that I would have to be able to set aside where I was today and what my employer was expecting of me. Because it's very easy to just look at the goals that others have set for you. So if you take a step back and you think about where you want to be and something that's realistic, if you think about where you want to be in 5 years and make that image clear in your head. And it surprised me how much that really helped, because I had never done that. I had never looked further than probably a year or something. And that gave me some kind of focus. And I've done this with a lot of people since, and it has always helped them as well. And what I did is, at that time, I went to my employer with the image that I had for myself. I was like, okay, look, this is what I want. Is there a way that we can work together on making this happen? And that's basically the moment that I realized, as I told earlier, that things were not going to work out at that company, and that if I wanted to achieve that, I needed to make some changes in my life. And one of those changes was switching employers. Does that answer the question somewhat? I hope it does. I don't think I can open the chat. Oh yeah, I can open the chat. Okay, here it is. ICQ for the win. Thanks. I grew up on ICQ. Okay, no other questions? Then I'm going to wish you a very nice weekend after the last talk. That is the slot after this one, I think. I hope you enjoyed NDC London, and I hope that somewhere in the next year we are able to see each other in a real-life setting. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you all soon.